Hi everyone, today a slightly different video because I am in a classroom. I just delivered the session with my students, and what we did was to go through the process of analyzing papers. We did so not for a dissertation, for let's say a literature review in a dissertation, but for an assignment that they are doing. They are expected to reflect on their use of generative artificial intelligence in one of their assignments. And the focus is on prompting, so they have to evaluate their own prompts. What we did was to analyze papers around prompting and prompt design with a view to understand what makes a good prompt. And once they are aware of that, they can then evaluate their own prompts based on those good guidelines for prompting, for effective prompting. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'll come back at the end for some final reflections. So the process related to analyzing papers is as follows. We started with one paper, okay? We can collect various papers, but we start analyzing one paper and we extract the meaning of that paper. And we will see what this means in a minute. The second stage is to structure that meaning. We have to give it a structure. We have to basically to interpret what we've extracted. And the third one is like a virtuous circle. We keep adding more papers, add more meaning, and we re-evaluate as we go. Because when we find a piece of the puzzle, we may well think that it fits in that place, but it may not be the case. After a while, we may think, actually, this bit is not better, it's not here, it's better located somewhere else. So it's a very interactive process. And the objective is, as we read more papers, as we extract more meaning and structure more meaning, we advance our puzzle about the area that we are analyzing. So the arrow means that you keep going back, and you should see it as a circle. And you don't write anything like you are going to submit it. You take lots of notes, and I'll show you how I do it and how I recommend you doing it. But then at the end, you write. Once you've got the pieces of the puzzle, you can describe the puzzle. You can write about the puzzle. So the first thing we have to do is to extract meaning. And in order for us to be able to do that, we have to find papers that we want to analyze. So when we are on Google Scholar, we have to find papers. And the topic that we are trying to find papers about, I'm going to narrow down a little bit and move from generative AI to a specific area of generative AI, which is prompting, which I believe it's where most of you will be doing their assignment on. So if you go to prompting, straight away we have suggestions. So we've got our keyword, prompting, and straight away we have suggestions. So we've got method, system, hierarchy, ABA, autism, procedure, strategies, device. Are any of these good suggestions? Not necessarily. So if we add Gen AI, let's see if it doesn't offer anything, but we have another option. Let's just search for prompting. And we also have additional suggestions here. So not only the ones when we are searching in the search box, but also here. Do we have anything here? No. It doesn't seem to be about what we want. And this is because prompting is such a generic word that it can mean so many things. So we need to provide Google Scholar with more information. A third choice, so we've got the search box, we've got the suggestions here, and the other option to try to find the words that may help us to refine our search is to actually look at what we've got. So let's go and see if there are any words here that we can pick up to help us. This is like a very superficial readings, just trying to find words that could stand out from the title or the brief description. You just look at the papers. The papers are about education and training and computing, and mental retardation. It doesn't seem to be anything related to what we want. So we have to come up with our own additional word, because it's such a generic word that it's not giving us anything. So we can use our brains to come up with an additional word. What additional word can we use? Prompting in AI. Let's see what comes up. Now, it is better. Yeah, immediately we can see that it's better. Now, is there any word here that you would pick up now based on, it's not exactly yet, some of the stuff may be good, but it's not sharp or as sharp as it could be. So what do you think is the word that we need to use based on what we are reading here? Engineering. That's the word that I would pick up, prompt engineering. Okay? Actually, the activity that we carry out when we are doing our prompts is prompt engineering. It's called prompt engineering. So let's just replace that and see what comes up. So we've got prompt engineering as an important emerging skill for medical professionals, a tutorial. Is that paper relevant? Why not? Okay. Do you think it's that different to be a prompt engineer as a medical professional when compared to being a prompt engineer as an event professional from a prompt engineering perspective? Probably not. It's prompt engineering, isn't it? So don't dismiss it just because it is in a different area. It's not in events or in marketing. Because what you're interested in is prompt engineering, the principles behind prompt engineering, and you will apply it in your own context. But those principles shouldn't be too different from context to context. So let's investigate this one. So this is the purpose of the paper. This paper summarizes the current state of research about prompt engineering and at the same time aims at providing practical recommendations for a wide range of healthcare professionals to improve their interactions with LLMs. LLMs are large language models. It's like ChatGPT is an LLM. Anything here that would trigger your attention? What are you reflecting about or supposed to reflect about? It's about your interaction with LLMs, isn't it? So, it's still a good sign. We don't know until we see the detail, but for me, it's still a good sign. It doesn't go in a kind of strange direction that seems irrelevant. So I would definitely consider looking at this one. So all the signs so far are good. But the proof is in the pudding, and we need to see inside, see if there's anything. So here it says, in the context of medical professionals and healthcare in general, this could encompass, and basically it's how LLMs can help. So you could say, is it this different in events? How could you adapt this to events? Decision support. Do you need any adaptation? No. It can help event managers make decisions. Admin assistant, is that different in events? No. Patient engagement. Patient is not, we don't deal with patients, yeah? We deal with what? We deal with what? Client, yeah? Participants, attendee. So we could just replace these and it still makes sense. Research and development. What have you used it for in this assignment? Research and development, wasn't it? Training and education, same thing, and public health. Maybe this one, maybe there is an equivalent in events that we could think of, but it's not, as straightforward as the other ones. Okay, but you could adapt these ones. It is written in the context of health, but most of it is relevant to events, and you can critically defend that these things, or most of these things, also apply in events. We've got some things here that we actually may mention in our reflection. How could you mention these in your reflection? Potentially, at this stage, you're trying to figure out what you're going to talk about by exploring the area. How could you use these in your assignment? That could be a brief introduction where you explain some of the benefits of using AI. You could frame what you are reflecting about in these benefits. So for example, if you are dealing with creativity, maybe then which one do you think it relates to? Is it about decision support? Maybe not. Is it about admin assistance? Not. Is it about attendee engagement? Not. Is it about research and development? Yes. Okay? So you could frame the specific area that you're going to reflect about in one of these benefits or uses of AI. Yeah? So that's one thing that you could use it for. So you use academic theory to put your own area of reflection into context around that area of theory. Make sense? The other, I don't think it's so much the case here, but the other could be if you've got these 5 or 6 areas, you could say, okay, I could do my assignment around any of these 5 or 6 areas, which one I'm going to go for. Basically, what this is doing is, from a uses of AI perspective, this is giving you the possibilities. It's a model that gives you a vision, a view of what AI can be used for. And you could use that to zoom in on your area. So say, actually, I'm going to look at using AI for attendee engagement. And you say, according to whatever the author of this paper is, there are 6 areas that AI can be used for. And in this instance, one of them is event engagement, which is the focus of my assignment. And then instead of just going and say, I'm going to look at engagement, you would back up that choice with an appropriate reference. And these little backing ups, if you want to call them that way, are vital for an academically underpinned assignment. So we can start analyzing it. I'm just going to copy this here. What is the theme that all these things refers to? The word is there. They are what? So we have to find a theme. We've got 6 things here, and we have the analysis process requires us to label them. What are these things about? In this case, you don't have to make up your mind. You don't have to create the label yourself. Sometimes you will have to do it yourself because the author clearly says what these are about. They are benefits. It's there. Look, it is essentially the practice of effectively interacting with AI systems to optimize their benefits. And in the context of medical professionals, this could encompass, so these benefits could encompass. Yeah? So what we do in our Word document, we have a theme called benefits of using AI. Just by reading these, I know there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 benefits according to this author. Now, if I was doing it, I wouldn't do it this way. It's too much information. I'll just kind of remove the waffle here, yeah, and just keep the essence of it, yeah, because we don't want a lot of information there. So I would just do this. And I'm trying to reduce the amount of information. Otherwise, I'm just copying the article. I want the essence of it. I want the juice here, the key information. Now, I need to do one more thing here before I do anything, which is what? To add the reference so that I keep track of who said what. Okay? So I am going to see who the authors are. Actually, it's just one, Mesco, 2023. Yeah? So we've got our reference there. Now we have two options here with regards to adding the reference. One is just add it there, and then we know that everything here is coming from this reference. The other option is, if we are going to add more material or more references, let's say we read another paper who has also said or mentioned, let's say, this benefit, and that benefit. Then we want the reference to be here because we're going to have two references to back up this statement. Okay? So in this instance, let's start, because we don't know if we're going to have any more material. Let's start just by adding it here. Okay? And we know that all these 6 benefits are coming from that. If in the future we want to add more authors here and more content, then we just, before we do that, we just copy that one to every single of the 6 benefits. At this stage, we don't know exactly if we're going to need this or not. If we believe we may be using it, just keep it in your document. I'll give you a little example of, it's coming from a dissertation, but it's a good example. One of the students, she was doing a dissertation on a topic, and she came across something. And she read, oh, no, this is not relevant. This was like maybe early November. A month and a half later, just before Christmas, she kept researching the topic, and what happened? Suddenly, what she had read 6 weeks before made sense in the context of what she had learned at that time. And actually, the dissertation was so good because she embedded that bit that she thought wasn't relevant in the core of her dissertation to resolve a weakness in the theory, the main theory that she was using. So you never know what's going to be relevant or not at an early stage. It's better to have more there and then say, okay, from all the stuff that I've learned, what are the bits that are going to be featuring in my final assignment? Okay, so I never get too picky at the analysis stage. Always prefer to add more than less. Sometimes I've got 10 pages of stuff, and in the end I use maybe 2 or 3 of those pages. But it doesn't matter because I don't know at the beginning, I cannot know what exactly is going to be the best for my assignment or for my paper. So we've got a bit of relevant content already extracted. So we've got the next section is about the state of prompt engineering. Maybe there's some stuff here that we want to read, but nothing stands out. It's about the advances and so on. Doesn't seem to be entirely relevant. How to improve at prompt engineering. Okay? Now, is this important, this section? Why would this section be important to read? What are you reflecting about? You're reflecting about your prompt engineering skills, correct? With a view to what? Improve them, yeah? So is this relevant? It's about what you have to reflect about, how to improve. So I would definitely find this section relevant. So prompt engineering would involve better understanding of the fundamental principles of technology, gaining practical exposure to systems using the technology, and continually refining and iterating the skill based on feedback. So we've got a really cool sentence here, correct? Because, so we can extract this meaning again, and we start a new bullet point. Is it about benefits? No. It's not about benefits, yeah? It's about something else, so we start a new bullet point. And we have this bit of text that we can now break down. We've got 3 ways, isn't it? So we broke it down into the bits again, because there may be another author that provides a 4th way of becoming better at prompt engineering. And what we do, we just add a new bullet point. And we are starting to not just regurgitate what this author says, but we are trying to create our own take on how to become better at prompt engineering. That's what analysis is to develop your own take on whatever topic you are referring to. Again, because all these three things are coming from an author, we can keep the reference here. If we were to add more from different authors, then I would copy this reference to each of these things so that at the end I know who said which bullet point. So now we get specific recommendations for better LLM prompts. Relevant theme just from the heading. So basically how to design better prompts. Is it relevant? Potentially? Of course it is. That's probably what most of you are going to reflect on their prompts. So what do we have? We have one recommendation here. Yeah? Be as specific as possible. So what we are going to do is to copy each of these recommendations. So we are going to create, is it about any of the themes that we already have there? No. It's not about becoming better at prompting, and it's not about the benefits. Okay, this is about the prompts itself, or themselves. Now, here, the author calls it recommendations for better LLM prompts. I don't think it's a good theme for us. How would we call all these things? So we can now give it a label ourselves. What theme? It's your theme. As long as it's an appropriate theme, no one's going to say, sorry, you should use my word, not your word. And in many cases, there are different ways. Instead of benefits, I could use the word maybe advantages. Is it that different? I could probably use another word there, purposes, because it's, it's purpose to engage, to decide, to create. It's the same, it's still an appropriate word. So if I call it purposes, it's not wrong. It's just a different way of referring to the same thing. Let's copy these things. So, and we come back to the word in a minute. So what we are doing here is we are extracting meaning. Remember the first stage? We are extracting meaning, and we are also kind of structuring it already, because we are already organizing it around key themes. These are all the things that we could extract with regards to prompting. But how can we label all these things? So it must be a word or an expression that can encompass every single one of those themes or sub-themes. What could it be? This is where your input comes in, because it's your take on the literature. How would you label these things? And I'm sure there's more than one way of labeling it. Could be techniques. Let's write prompt or prompting techniques. Any other? Could be guidelines, could be methods. So many labels that we can attach to it that we are spoiled for choice. Now, if the literature tends to refer to these in a way, in the same way, don't come up with a new expression. Yeah, just use what is standard. If you can't see a pattern there that it's always that expression, then I guess you can vary. Yeah. So we've got guidelines, we've got methods, good practice. We could also, I was just reading, where? Here. I was just reading this paragraph to see if there was any word there that could inspire us to give it a label. Like the benefits one, we didn't need to think much because the author was using that expression. Here, he refers to it as recommendations, which is probably not the word that is best for us. Okay, so we are adding all this material from one paper. Look at how much we've already learned about prompting. One paper. Okay? Have you learned anything that you didn't know? A few things. I've learned a few things. So we have all this information extracted, and then it's just conclusions. We may want to just quickly have a read just to see if there's anything that we may want to extract. Okay, so one paper, and we've got quite a bit of material already. We already have 3 major themes: benefits, approaches to becoming better at prompting. Actually, I've just used that word randomly, so I can write that. Now, what I do, look at the parentheses that I used. That's my technique. It's up to you to use it or not. Sometimes when you're doing this, it's hard to differentiate what you read, what's not from you, and what is from you. So my sign to tell me, no, this is my stuff, I came up with it, it's to just put it under this type of brackets. Okay? And I know in 3 weeks' time when I'm still working on this document, and I can't remember anymore if it's something that I read somewhere or it was an idea that came to my mind based on what I was reading. So I always indicate if it's mine, because most of it is not mine, yeah? I'm just reading the papers. So when something is mine, a conclusion that I've arrived at from reading all this stuff, maybe an idea to explore something in the future, I just use that. But, that's my way of signaling that it's my text, not from someone else. We have exhausted this paper, assuming we've read, we are skim reading. Maybe there's some other stuff there, but we've extracted a lot of meaning. So the next step is to move to a second paper. Now, there are different ways of identifying a second paper. 3 different ways. What are they? We found a paper that focuses on the things that we are interested in, correct? So there are 3 ways of identifying an additional paper that we could also analyze. 2 of those ways are related to this paper that we just analyzed. One way is to look at the list of references in this paper. Okay, so if we go back to it, so we've got the list of references here. We go through it. It's like your Google Scholar, yeah? Just going through the titles and see if there's anything else that you want to look at. There's a second way still tied to this paper, because the references, they give you possible references up to the publication of this paper in 2023. What happened after 2023? The paper won't give them. These are references that were published up to 2023. But there's a way of picking up what has been published after this paper, but related to this paper, by looking at who cited this paper. Look at that option, cited by. So there are 93 papers that cited this one. If we click on it, it gives us the list. So we could go through the list, or, because 93 is quite a reasonable number already, we could search only, if we tick that box, we could search only within these 93. Sometimes you have 1,000 or 1,200, and you can't possibly go one by one. Yeah, so you will do a search within that search. The third option, so the first option is the list of references. The second one is the cited by option on Google Scholar. The third one, and was suggested earlier, just go to Google Scholar again and look for the other results. So we have, I'm going to go back here. We've got our result here. Is there anything else in the search that we've carried out that could be useful? So prompt engineering in medical education. Again, we already understood that the medical is irrelevant to a certain extent or to a good extent. So we've got here again, prompt engineering with ChatGPT, a guide for academic writers. Again, this is relevant. Obviously, a guide for academic writers, we are not academic writers. You are to a certain extent, actually. But we know that, is it that difference between academic writers and medical staff? It's prompting in the end. There may be some things that are unique to academic writers that do not apply to medical professionals, but we can always remove the things that are irrelevant and keep the things that are relevant. Okay, so probably another one to watch, to have a look at. Let's do a different search. Now we want a search that is targeted to find more information about this theme. We've got lots of words there. Yeah? Which one would you suggest that we use in our revised Google search? Let's look at the options first. Prompt techniques or prompting techniques. Prompt design. I think those two seem more academic. Yeah, sound more academic. So let's see. Let's do another one. Prompt design. What about this one? Why Johnny can't prompt? How non-AI experts try and fail to design LLM prompts. Relevant or not? If we look at what we've been doing, we're looking at good practice, yeah? The things that ensure success. Now this paper does it from a different perspective, is why they fail. So is it relevant to learn why you fail? Or is it more relevant to know why you succeed? I would say both. Because the reasons for success may not be exactly the same type of reasons for failure. Or in other words, when we look at success, we may look at different things when compared to when we look at failure. So both are good ways of looking at something. Why something succeeds or why something fails. So I would click on it again. Now, there is some similarities here. Have we heard this before? Iteration? What's that? Iterate and refine. It's the same thing, isn't it? Okay, so now if I wanted, I could actually say, so we've got 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗃 here. But also, I would start adding, let's say I want to also include this paper, and we know it's 4 authors, so what do we do in terms of referencing? 𝗪𝗏𝗃𝗀 Pereira, what do we add next? Et al. And then the year. So what we have here, we've got a theme backed up by 2 authors. Okay? Or maybe 3 or 4. As we read more papers, maybe, I'm pretty sure other authors are going to refer to iteration, so we can add even more. Obviously, we don't need to add 20, yeah? So this is just a different take on prompting. Is it one that we can see useful for us, for our context? Not so sure. So we've looked at it. It's not exactly what we want, and we keep searching for articles. I'm going to change things a little bit because in a previous class, we actually already identified words that we could use. So effective AI prompts. Let's check that. Okay? What's the notion of effectiveness? If something is effective, is what? Actually, we can go define effective. Successful in producing a desired or intended result. In a sense, what you're going to do, if you go in the direction of prompting, you're going to examine the extent to which your prompting was effective. Okay? So that's exactly what you will be doing. Now, we can do one other trick here. We are really interested in these words, effective and prompts, correct? So what can we do to make sure that we get papers about that? It's a little click. So if you go here, these 3 lines, and you go advanced search, you've got these alternative ways of doing it. You didn't know this one because you didn't watch my YouTube video on using Google Scholar. Now, where is it searching now? Anywhere in the article. So it could be someone in the conclusion writing, you know, the expression effective prompts, and it would still bring it up. But you don't want that. You want papers that are mainly about effective prompts. So if that expression is in the title, there's a much, much greater chance that the entire paper is about that. Am I correct? So if we just change that and do a new search, okay, now you will see titles that have to have AI prompts and effective. There are only 8, so not a lot, but we don't need a lot. Honing your AI prompts for more effective results. Relevant? Potentially. Let's open this one. So we've got be specific. Have we read this before? Come on, your memory is not very good, is it? Look, it was the first one. Straight away, so we see a repetition here. So what we can do is we don't need to copy this anymore because we already have it here. So what we need is it's Talarico 2023 as well. We've got 2 authors that say that a good prompt needs to be specific. What else? And that's the beauty. We don't need to copy. If it is the same thing, we just have the reference. We already have the content there. So be clear and succinct. Do we have anything in our list that is clear and succinct? There's nothing here, is there? So in this case, what we do is we copy it and we add it. And the reference is this one. At this stage, what I would do, I would copy, because we are adding so much to this, I would add like this, yeah, to everyone, so that we know. Okay? So what else? Build constraints. Okay? Do we have anything here about building constraints? Do we have anything here? Not immediately, yeah? So what we do the same thing. What we are doing here is build a picture based on multiple authors, a picture of prompting recommendations, techniques, design guidelines, however you want to refer to it. Let's add a third one. I'm going to get this AI. I think the AI bit is, yeah, look, we removed the AI bit and it gave us 64. Let's check this one. That's the introduction. Right. So this is components, task, context, instructions, and then elements, RATEL, the acronym, role, audience, tone, examples, limits. So it's a slightly different take on an effective prompting, isn't it? So what we can do is to, for now, so this is the title, yeah? Prompt development formula. So I'm going to give it a title here, And the authors are Nazari and Sadi, and the year is 2024. Okay? So we've got here something that is slightly different. Are there any similarities? Now here, the word example is there, and the word example is there. Is it the same thing? I'm not entirely sure. Because, I would say I'm not entirely sure, because you can give examples in the prompt or you can request examples in the prompt. They're two different things. So you could say, look, I've got the situation, one of the examples within this situation is this. So that kind of the AI system understands exactly what you want. That's one thing. The other one is, no, just give me examples. So it's give or request examples. So what we can do is, we're going to remove that, examples, and we're going to do request. And we can give. And for the sake of the exercise, let's assume that this model refers to give examples, yeah? So we need this stuff there. Okay, so we are going themes, sub-themes, and sub-themes of sub-themes. We're getting as much detail as we can. So set realistic expectations. What does it mean? We could go and try to understand the principles behind setting realistic expectations. We could go and say, what are the principles behind the clear and succinct prompt? So we are trying to understand the principles to a very fine detail. One thing that we need to do, we've been adding things without much criticism. But let me give you an example of what I mean. Is this about the prompt itself? It doesn't seem to be. It's just kind of a pre-prompt design task rather than an ingredient of a prompt, isn't it? So it's two themes. So what we can do is actually say, let's say, pre-prompt design, and we have a theme there. And now we have features of prompts. Yeah? Now, be as specific as possible. It's a feature of a prompt, isn't it? Is this about a specific component of a prompt, or is it about the entire prompt? It's the entire prompt, okay? So this is kind of an overall approach to the prompt, not when you say, let's contrast it. So this is where we are using our brain, okay? And this is your take on things. My take, I'm suggesting my take, but I'm sure if I give this to one of you, you're probably going to see slightly different things. Maybe some are the same, maybe are different. This is my take on things. I'm going to compare this one with, for example, this one, the roles. This one is a clear component of a prompt, isn't it? Indicate the role. Okay, so let's ask it, let's label it that. This one is not a component of a prompt, is it? It's like almost an approach to prompting. So let's call it that. Or overall, how can we label it? There's no right or wrong. Overall strategy, I don't even have a label at the moment. That's another important lesson here. This happens many times. Sometimes I know there's a theme there and I don't have a label, a proper label. What I do, because this is a working document, I just write the best thing that I come up with now. And in most cases, as I continue to do more work, a better thing will come up. Okay? Maybe I read it and say, oh, that's exactly what I mean. Or I can come up with it as I immerse myself more in the theme, in the topic. So let's write just overall approach to prompt design. Okay? Now we've got 3 main themes here. What should we do next? We've got all this stuff here that we haven't classified yet, correct? So let's try to unclassify. So describe your setting and provide the context around your question. Is this an overall approach or is it a component of a prompt? It seems to be a component, yeah? Actually, the other element here, it's a good example, lots of little techniques here coming up now. Is this 1 or 2 things? Describe your setting and provide the context around your question. It's 1 or 2? It's 2, so we don't want that. What we are going to do is to that. Okay? So this is a component, and we're going to add it there. Provide context around your question. Is it a component, or is it an overall approach? It seems to be a component, but I do understand that. I was myself in a one or the other, okay? What we probably would need to do now is to go and read what author said about this. Maybe the detail, which we don't have here, maybe the detail will help us clarify where it should go. And if we are not 100% sure, we probably have to make a decision, yeah? Or maybe it's something else. Maybe you need another theme. But let's, for the sake of the exercise here, let's consider it a component. Experiment with different prompting styles. Is it a component of a prompt? No. Imagine a prompt, a good prompt. Imagine the section where this is reflected. It doesn't make sense. So that's probably an overall approach, isn't it? So what about iterate and refine? Is it a component? A component is a section of the text, isn't it? Is iterate and refine a component? It isn't. Yeah? So you see how suddenly once we identified good themes, it's not that difficult. Now, just to finalize, this is the juice. This is the stuff that gives you the higher marks, because it is showing higher level intellectual skills. You could come up with themes, you could classify themes. This is the essence of analysis. It's breaking down things apart from other authors and reconnecting them from your own take on things, using your own themes. This is the essence of analysis. If you can become better at doing this stuff, because now if I want to write about it, we could do it for the rest, but we have enough, okay? Now, I'm going to write a paragraph about it. You can start the clock if you want, in 3 minutes or less. I'm going to write a really good analytical paragraph, okay? So let's say many authors have delved into prompting effectiveness, suggesting different ways of ensuring the success of the prompting exercise. Okay? These contributions can be broadly classified into 3 categories. Okay, straight away I'm telling, look, there are 3 things that we can talk about prompting, these 3 things. Now, what should I do next? Go through in detail, through the detail of each of them. So pre-prompt design relates to, and look at what I'm doing now. I'm not writing anything identifying the overall goal of, obviously I don't, to first, let's say, try to change first, identifying the overall goal of the prompt. Okay, so straight away, I didn't have to write a lot, yeah? Because if you just say, if you just reply, use this expression, it's not plagiarism, and you don't need to include in double inverted commas, just a little bit, little expression, rather than an entire sentence. Then you would need to include double inverted commas, yeah? So I'm going to use that text, amend it as I see fit. So with regards to, and again, I don't need to write anything. The literature suggests three, or do we call them? Three design practices, yeah? Let's call them this, yeah? And then be specific as possible. Look at how quickly I'm writing. And this is not plagiarism. This is your take on the literature. And there's only so many different ways you can express these things, yeah? Plagiarism is when you take chunks of text. If you take these snippets, the essence of someone's ideas, and use them in your own narrative, it's not plagiarism. Okay? And now finally, the components of, to use the expression that we use for search, an effective prompt include, and again, I don't, obviously asking it to play roles. Probably we can change this text a little bit, but describing the context, the setting, and providing the context around the question. Yeah? And there you have a paragraph that summarizes the literature. It's highly analytical. The best sign of analysis is more than one reference in a sentence. Because if there's only one reference, it tends to be descriptive. You are describing what that author said. Sometimes that's fine. But if I see something like this, boom, analysis. I can read a literature review, for example, in a dissertation or any assignment, and I'll do that straight away. Even before I read anything, I'll just look at first and second page and look at the referencing. If there's a single reference here and there, it's more descriptive. If I see something like this, I don't even need to read the content. Analytical. The best sign of analysis is multiple authors in a statement, in a sentence. And look at how easy it was to write it once the bulleted point work is done. That's why I always say to my students, don't write anything. Do the bulleted point structure, because then the writing took me 2 or 3 minutes to do it. Maybe it takes 5 minutes to you because you're still learning, how you can write it. I've had, and now hopefully you understand that, I've had a student of mine telling me that she wrote her dissertation 10,000 words in 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks before submission. And you think, how is that possible? And she did very well, she's got a first. How is that possible? Because she had all the bulleted point structure. She just needed to write on top of it. And in that context, it is well possible even to write more than 10,000 words. Can you see how the mechanics of it work? Now, try to apply it. Obviously, I've been doing this for a long time. I've kind of developed the method and made it explicit. I can easily implement it. In your case, if you can just pick up a few things from today, that's already better than where you were, 2 hours ago. I hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to watch other videos in the channel about how to write a critical literature review, and also a shorter video explaining this process, so how to analyze papers. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you at the next video.